All right, so the next team we have for our team preview are the San Antonio Spurs. They finished 22 and 60 in the standings last season, and they did not make the play-in. They finished in the 14th spot in the Western Conference. They have one of the biggest up-and-coming stars in the NBA right now in Victor Wembanyama. They just picked up Chris Paul, and they got Harrison Barnes in that trade with Sacramento. I think that was like a multi-team trade as well. And they also picked up Stephon Castle in the draft. So, Trevon, what are your thoughts on the San Antonio Spurs going into this next season?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of reasons to be excited if you are a Spurs fan or if anybody is part of that organization, just simply because of one, what you saw from Wemby. I just think that the amount of attention and pressure he got, even though it may not have felt like pressure to him, he handled it very, very good. And he was able to really flourish in his rookie campaign despite all of the attention that he got. So I think one, anytime you have a franchise player, you want a guy that can handle pressure, attention, noise, and all that stuff. And on top of that, he's just that good. Like I think he was averaging about 20 points in his first year. I think the physicality was a lot of questions we had, averaging about close to 4 blocks his rookie season. I mean, this guy was just on a tear. You saw him literally like manning 3-on-1 breaks by himself just because he can
Yeah.
cover so much area. He can jump from basically the paint and get out to block or contest a 3-point shot. So it's nothing we've ever seen before. We've seen height and length before, especially at the big spot, but we've never seen it with this type of mobility, this type of skill work, this type of potential, to be honest. And it's just honestly crazy. So obviously got to start there. But then you couple it with the fact that you do get a Chris Paul, and it's not just Chris Paul himself, even though we've seen him do things like lead the Oklahoma City Thunder to a playoff berth in that bubble year. Like that was not expected of him. He really wanted to be there. He left his impact there. Like obviously that's going to go miles forward for Wemby and this young Spurs team, him and Pop. Like obviously you can see why that has the potential to work. But you mentioned Stephon Castle, his ability to really show Stephon Castle how to run that point position, because it's very well known that they look at Stephon Castle as a point guard. And he played well in the summer league, and you can see those flashes, especially the two-way ability. So imagine you have Stephon doing the on-ball point of attack defense, navigating those screens when you have a guy like Wemby on the back line that can support you, and his athleticism is there. The offense can only get better. He shows some scoring flashes. He's always been able to attack the rim, but the shooting is a question mark and a room for improvement for him. He's a big guard. He's not small. So just looking at the potential and just being in a Spurs organization, you can see the chance of this really becoming something. And not only just Stephon Castle, but you have Devin Vassell, who's done good. Trey Jones, Chris Paul can help as well. Just being that two-way point guard, that leader. I think Trey really shows that leadership aspect. It's just a lot of things to be excited about. Zach Collins played well beside Wemby. Shohan is a guy the Spurs really like, who's more like a versatile guy that can play and do a lot of things on the court. So I don't know if it's going to be like a top 6 seed. I expect them to be in that 7 through 10 space just because you're adding a winner, Chris Paul, and he's just going to have a positive effect on that team. And I think the West is always open, as we've said before. And I just really like what I see from them. I think Wemby's going to take even another step forward. And the more everybody gets used to each other, Pop is going to come up with ways to kind of make sure everybody succeeds. And Chris Paul is going to stay on these guys because he's going to see the potential that they have. So I'm really liking what the Spurs have, and I think they're going to really do good. That division is really becoming something as well. You got the Grizzlies, you got Houston up and coming, you got the Spurs, the Pelicans are always a team to keep an eye on, and Dallas, of course, just made the final. So kind of how we saw in the Northwest Division with the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, this is another division that we could really be keeping an eye on, like matchups between Wemby and Ja, and then Luca and everybody on the Houston Rockets, those young guys. Just a lot of players, a lot of excitement for the Spurs squad specifically.
Yeah, I think you said it very well. The Spurs fans have a lot to be excited for, especially when you look at Victor Wembanyama. I mean, even as you looked at how he performed in the Olympics, that alone should
Yeah.
give you a lot of things to be excited about for this upcoming season. Last year, it was tough for him. I'm not gonna lie. When you look at the wins and losses, but when you look at the games, they had a lot of games where they were very competitive and they were in a lot of really close games late, and some of them they pulled out. I know they beat the Suns two games in a
Yeah.
row
That
early
was
in the
crazy.
season. Then they had a few games where they beat teams like the Thunder, or they were in close games with a team like Denver. I think they beat Minnesota last year, one game. So we have a lot of things to look forward to with this young and upcoming team. Also, Coach Pop had talked about we're not going to confine Wemby to a specific structured offense. We're going to allow him to play and allow him to get used to the NBA game, and we're just going to fill it out and see what we can do with him. And I think we just saw that get better throughout the season. We saw Wemby get more involved in the offense throughout the season and things like that. So I think this year, with the veteran leadership that you just mentioned, with Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, along with the young talent, I feel like this year is going to be the next step and the next evolution of that process, trying to understand how we can put each player, our young guys, in the best situations possible, especially Victor Wembanyama. How can we put him in positions to be successful? And I think we're just going to see the next step of that. And then when you look at the defensive end, Victor Wembanyama was the runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year. The Spurs were top three in blocks last year, and Victor Wembanyama was the biggest reason on that team why they were top three in blocks last year. Outside of Victor, defensively, they really weren't that good. Bottom half of the league in terms of most of the defensive metrics and the defensive stats. But I think this upcoming year, there will be a little more structure from Coach Pop trying to put together this team along with the veteran leadership there. And we'll see them take a step forward. Don't exactly know how far that step will be, but I'm with you. I think that they will definitely be competing for a play-in spot. I'm really excited for this team. I think they have a lot of young talent that's going to be really good in the league. You just mentioned Stephon Castle. A lot of people compare him to Drew Holiday. Not saying he's going to be as good as Drew Holiday or he is as good as Drew Holiday right now, but he does show a lot of the intangibles and the tangible skill sets and talent that kind of remind you a little bit of Drew Holiday. So I think that this team is on the upward trajectory, if you want to say it that way. And I'm really excited to see how this team goes moving forward into this next season.